I made my first million in a year in 2005, and I was 26 years old, and the next year I was in prison. When I got out, I had a mentor who owned a self-storage facility, and he had been bankrupt before, and he said, "You ain't shit if you can't lose it all and go get it back."
Yes, sir.
And I'm like, okay, well, maybe
All right, everybody, welcome to a brand new episode of the podcast. You are in for a real treat. I think we're in for a real treat. Welcome in our co-host, David Meltzer, Lacey Book, and our very special guest today, Ryan Stewman, who has crawled out from his cave. He's back. He's out. He's doing publicity.
So left the ranch.
So excited to have you here on the podcast. Thank you for taking the time to be here with us in beautiful LA.
It's amazing. The stadium full of people just here to see this podcast. You know what I mean?
It's
amazing.
We were getting caught up.
Where's CGI when you need it?
We're going to edit this in on the green screen type of setup.
Isn't that Matthew McConaughey right there in the box next to us?
So we were talking just a little bit prior to this, and I would love for you just to give us a little bit of a synopsis, because all kidding aside, you've been absent from a lot of the rounds for a little bit, and here you are. We're, of course, super honored that you're here. Tell us a little bit about that journey and kind of where you've been and why we've been missing you.
Well, I like to make life difficult, and oftentimes as an entrepreneur, things go really well, and then we break it. You got to have something to fix. And maybe not all of you. Maybe there's normal people out there listening or watching this. I'm not normal. Most of us abnormal entrepreneurs, things get going too good, and they're like, I need something to break, so I got something to fix, And for 10 years of my career, I was on a lot of podcasts, speaking on stages, and doing things like this. And for some reason, I got it in my head that I don't have to do that anymore. Not that I'm above it or better than it. That it's like, I got this machine going. I don't have to do those things anymore. And I realized after 2 years of not doing it, it's like, shit, I should start doing that again. That was actually part of the reason why I got the popularity and had the momentum. And dude, the internet's full of cat squirrel brain memories. Like if you disappear for 2 weeks, let alone 2 years,
they think you're dead.
You exist, Like I would like to sit here and think.
Someone asked me if Ryan died. I'm like, no, I think he's alive. Maybe I'll text him.
Well, we would all like to sit here and think if we didn't post on social media for a month, people would wonder where we were or whatever. Right. Maybe they will for the first week, but then something else is in their news feed in front of them getting promoted, and they just forget that we exist because there's something else there to entertain them. You know what I mean? Like, how many famous people have we seen pass away, influencers and stuff like that over the last decade? And we think, oh man, people will go be watching their content forever, and 2 weeks later, they're just forgotten about it. It's a sad fact of reality.
This is it. I don't know if you'll appreciate this, but because you're young. I actually just had to Google the other day if George Michaels, remember George Michaels?
Yeah, of course I do.
I was like,
it's a nice beard.
I was like, is he dead? I had to look that up. Yeah. I was like, what?
Is he alive?
No.
Oh, he's dead?
He's dead.
I didn't know he was dead, yeah. No wonder we haven't heard his music.
I thought for sure he was going to say he's alive.
But that's
we shouldn't be laughing about this. I'm just saying.
No, but it's to your point. Like you just move on. There's other entertainers. You're like Usher, and then you're doing other things.
I think this is a total shift in why I changed. Yeah, he's safe. He's my friend Steve.
He's been in every podcast.
Damn it,
Steve. Come on, Steve.
Just land.
But Shawn and Lacey know this, that I've been looking to license a brand that has legacy already to it and has a community already built into it of the people that I, at my essence, want to communicate with. So yes, there's 19-year-old life coaches and people standing in front of cars that they don't own that love Dave Meltzer. And hopefully I'm planting seeds under those trees. But there's a whole audience of executives and real business people that speak at my frequency and understand, like most people don't, like what exactly I'm trying to say at least.
Right.
So I'm actually looking at a brand right now, and I'll make the announcement because those are dying brands and they're actually bargains.
Yeah.
So when you look at a legacy brand, and I'll use Wayne Dyer, who's like I love.
Yeah.
That was
He
one
passed
of
away, right?
he
Yeah.
passed,
He did,
and he's
yeah.
one of the people that I looked at. He just didn't have a big enough legacy and a big enough community. But most people a year from now won't even know who Wayne Dyer, Power of Intention, Change Your Thoughts,
Right.
Change Your Life.
Yeah.
They won't even know who he is.
And he shaped
Crazy.
an industry.
Yeah,
He's
me.
like literally a foundational person. in this
And
industry.
so if we can take some of these legacy brands, which I'm going to do, put my own brand and tie it to it, and then you already have an existing community, but you revitalize it just like you're going to revitalize yours because you have that community. It's just they need to know you're alive again, and you'll bring them right back. But if you go too long, and take Warren Moon, my business partner, it still blows my mind that more people today know who I am than Warren Moon. That like as a kid, like I was super, when he said he'd be
Well,
my
outside
business
of
partner.
Texas, I'm guessing.
Yeah, Houston. Outside, but even NFL people.
Yeah.
Like I can't believe there's kids in the NFL that I'm coaching in business, and I'm like, well, you know, my business partner is Warren Moon, trying to like add credibility. Like I'm going to be a
You're
great
like,
coach. We're like, I'm like, you know, Hall of Fame, only black quarterback in the Hall of Fame. That shows you why you have to keep that content going, even if you're not going.
Yeah. You know, I never abandoned my clients in the Apex community, and they were really what I leaned on. I did events for us and stuff. The other thing is I bought this office so I didn't have to travel on the road to do events, and I got people to come to me. And I never really left my community, but I left reaching new communities,
Yeah.
you know? And to your point, you know, it was weird when I was on the come up in business and I would see celebrities, and I don't know any names now, but let's say George Michael or Wayne Dwyer, and I'm like, damn, I have more followers than them.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Insane.
How do more people not know who this person is who's 10 million times greater than me, you know, like to your Warren Moon,
Yeah.
you know?
I want to go back to this idea of entrepreneurs and how we love to break things because no, but
Because you're one of them.
Well, I definitely one
Besides
of them.
the bank, baby.
I break the bank real good.
Yeah,
right?
we've seen what kind of clothes and jewelry you wear. No doubt. Your boy does as well. Those are $800 shoes, by the way.
Mine are $800.
Yours are like $1,800.
These are- yeah,
Those
they're
tennis
just
shoes.
PVC too.
Julie tried to buy me a pair. I'm like, not in this world for me. I get my tennis shoes for free.
But I think one of the interesting things about being a business owner and entrepreneurship, especially when things are going really freaking well, like things are doing great, money's easy, people know who you are, they're buying your stuff. I think instead of us actually breaking things, I think things are actually broken, but the good stuff hides the problems.
Yes.
Really, really well. And then all of a sudden, things aren't going as well. We get a little bit of a resistance, slow down, and now your system activates and you go, what's going on? And you see those things that were kind of broken already, but they were broken in good times, so it was hard to fix. So I've had to change my perspective a lot on this idea. Like, it's not that the whole thing's falling apart. It's now
It's been
we're just
falling apart.
It's been
Yeah,
falling
and
apart.
success
and
is a
it's-
pressure that pops
it's a
open the
pressure.
leak.
And it's an opportunity for us to fix that, to tier to that next level, so it's not hidden next time, right? So, like, what's your feeling on like that and going back into looking underneath the hood even when things are going well?
You know, funny you say that. So last year, I made a decision to quit smoking weed. So I have been smoking weed. And for those who don't know my story, I've been to prison several times, unfortunately. I smoked weed every day in prison.
Sure.
So like the day I started smoking weed,
Easier to
I
get there
never-
than other places,
Oh,
right?
That's
never
impressive.
stopped smoking weed for 30 years, 34 years of my life. And, you know, last year I just felt like I was being called to stop smoking. And now I've got, 300 days that I haven't smoked weed.
Nice.
And I realize month one, month two, I'm just mad at the world. But like by the time my brain start kicking back in, the creativity, and I learned how to cope without it, start realizing a lot of that stuff was broken that I didn't address because my escape was, fuck it, it'll work itself out. You know what I
Right.
mean? And that was my, when pressure built up, I just smoked more weed. You know what
Right.
I mean? And it's like, surely we'll get through this. Things always work out. God's got his hand on my life, whatever
Yeah.
that excuse was. And I realized come like January, February this year, it's like, man, I got a lot of employees around here just sitting on their hands. I'm not even sure what the fuck they do, and, I got a lot of sales guys here that got leads that they're not calling, things that I wouldn't have never paid really good attention to.
Right.
that were broken, like
Yeah.
you're saying, but things were so good that had I not got a sober mind and started paying attention, because my belief is there's only three things you can do to make money as a business owner: increase revenue, decrease overhead, minimize your taxes. That's how you put more money in your pocket, when you optimize those three things. And so I'm always the increased revenue guy. And then I look around once I start sobering up, it's like, we got a lot of overhead here that I don't know if it's really, what do you do for this business? You know what I mean? I felt like, you ever seen one of those reels for somebody that works at Google? They're like, I go in the morning, I get green juice, and I log into Facebook, and I hang out, and then at lunch I go do yoga, and I play foosball with my friends, and then I go home for the day, and I make 300 grand a year. I'm like, fuck, I got a lot of that going on here. You know what I mean? Like,
You're Google.
How did that help me at all, right?
Right.
And so, I started looking at things like that were broken, that's really given me the clear mind to fix some of them. And now that I've gotten these overhead things down, I'm like, okay, so what were some of the things that I did to increase revenue that maybe I stopped doing, like we were discussing earlier, which has kind of gotten me back to, being here and what we were talking about originally. So.
Yeah. And I think it's important for us to be able to assess those things and recognize them at a $100 million business or a $10 million business instead of a $1 billion valuation, right? You want to see those mistakes now and be able to resolve them as quickly as possible. So, yeah.
Well, one of the things that a lot of people get into business really for two reasons. You might have a variation of these two reasons, but it's to, not have a boss, do your own thing, punch your own clock, whatever you want to call it, and then have freedom to do whatever you want to do. But then what happens is you start to, maybe that happens from 0 to 1 million, 0 to 5 million. Then when you start getting in the 10 million, there's some kind of entrepreneurial purgatory where you're like, fuck, now I have no freedom. Everybody's my boss that works for me. And maybe if you build $1 billion business or $50 million, $100 million a year business, you can like work your way back out of that. But you get, maybe you're right, but you get stuck in this kind of purgatory where it's like, shit, now I'm making $20 million a year top line revenue, and I'm really netting the same amount of money I did when I was making $5 million a year.
Yeah.
However, I have twice the overhead or 10 times the overhead,
More
no time
responsibility.
freedom, and a bunch of other people bitching at me. Was it really worth it to go from 5 to 20, or was I happier at 5 and had bigger margins at 5 that allowed me to actually live a better life? And, we see guys all the time, they'll post their top line revenue on, Instagram or Facebook. Look at my Stripe account. We did XYZ dollars. And they blur out the net profits on their profit sheet because, like, yeah, you did 50 million, but you spent 49 of it to get there, and you have zero quality of life.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Good point.
Versus the guy that does $3 million a year. I got a friend named Kevin Nations. This guy has the best business model I've ever seen. He has about 50 clients. They pay him 100 grand a year. They've been with him for 10 years. They never move. He's like, they're like his family. He has no assistant, no office, runs everything out of his mansion. These people come in, they spend a workshop 4 or 5 times a year. He coaches them once a week. And he told me, I told him, man, I'm going to change the world. I'm going to have thousands of clients and I'm going to have all these employees. He goes, that's a fool's game, Stewman. And I'm like, you've settled. And he goes, man, my little $5 million a year, I get to keep all of it. You're going to have to go to 50 to 100 to keep $5 million at what you're trying to do. And I was like, nah, you're not right. Not a day goes by that I'm like, fucking Kevin, he was right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, if you don't like someone, I always say, man, I hope you have thousands of employees, hundreds of offices.
Yeah.
And they're like, dude, Dave Meltzer, he's the nicest guy. He's wishing only the best for me. And I have literally just somehow underhandedly said, you're fucked, and I just fucked you.
Yep.
And you are too stupid to even
realize
know
it's
I cursed you. Right. You think I'm blessing you. And to that end, we were talking about older books. And I go back and read, I just went back and read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And the reason I read it was I wanted to remember exactly what wealthy was. Because I've been here before, right? I was very rich, but not wealthy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? Because wealth is when your assets, they pay you more than your expenses. And so if you can live off $1,000 and your assets are giving you 1,500, you're wealthy.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if that wealth allows you to do what you want, with who you want, when you want, whenever you want, all the better. And the entire timing and risk tolerance of my business, of what I built, is exactly to that measure of when I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad for the 5th time, when I went bankrupt. And now that I'm getting closer to being over that $100 million mark, doing what I want to do, I want to maintain my wealth and freedom and not be caught up into this game of top line revenue, or even worse, lying about what I'm making to impress people that I don't even like.
Right.
I got a friend, Tommy Mello. You guys may know him.
Yeah, I
He
know
runs
Tommy.
A1 Garage Doors out of Scottsdale. They've got, 50 locations, or they're 29 states, I believe, 50 locations, and they do hundreds of millions of dollars a year. And my favorite quote comes from his book Elevate, which is like it's the new, if you have employees, that is a qualified reading. It is like mandatory. It's called Elevate by Tommy Mello. He says, revenue is for vanity, profit is for sanity.
Ooh, I love that.
Quote unquote.
I love that, man. You know?
You're gonna see that on my threads, by the way. I'll remember
You're
to
gonna
give
put that,
Tommy credit.
Yeah. Tommy's a good dude. He's fun.
Really
too,
good dude. Yeah.
One of the things that I love about you too is that you're very transparent. One time you shared even sort of your thought process behind these long posts. You have long form content as social media posts, and how you sit and you in your truck and you compose these
Shawn always
ideas.
sends me your posts, by the way.
Yeah, I love
And they're
your
very
content.
non-AI like, by the way.
Very non-AI.
I'm like, this is not AI. Unless he's like, write this as this, I'm a stupid motherfucker. No, I mean that as a compliment. I'm always backhanding people. There you go.
Like AI is not going to spell probably PROLLY. It's never going to happen, So.
But one of the things too that about your transparency is you don't mind sharing some of these what many would perceive as a setback.
Yeah.
You're very open. Like, hey, this is where I'm at. It's not all, hey, everything is perfect. Hire me, I'm the perfect guy. You share like, hey, this is some areas that I'm working on. I want to talk a little bit about resiliency though, right? Because I mean, all of us have had setbacks. That's just part of the nature of life. Not everybody comes back from a setback. It's easy, and you never know what it is, right? This whole like emotional trauma or my trauma of the past. Sometimes what's minor to Dave, that could be crippling to me or to someone else. Talk to us a little bit about, you're like, oh, well, I was in prison a couple times. Unfortunate, but
A few
like,
times.
now I'm here, right? Tell us about what gives you that mettle to allow you to constantly get back up after you've taken that punch.
Well, it's a couple things. When I made my first million in a year in 2005, and I was 26 years old, and the next year I was in prison. I went to federal prison for being felon in possession of a firearm. And turns out in the state of Texas, you can have guns if you're off parole and stuff, but the feds don't recognize states deal. I didn't get that notice, or I would have minded the rules. And so, I ended up getting caught with a gun and went to federal prison for 15 months. And when I got out, I had a mentor who owned a self-storage facility, and he had been bankrupt before. And he said, you ain't shit if you can't lose it all and go get it back.
Yes, sir.
And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I had a lucky run, but I'm willing to go get it back. And I've lost it, got it back probably 3 times, maybe 4 times at this point. So I feel pretty confident with that. But the other thing is, I am very transparent, because when I got out of prison the first time, I made a pact with God. I said, I'm not going to do anything behind closed doors that I wouldn't do on Times Square or in front of my pastor. I'm not going to do anything that's embarrassing, anything that's illegal, anything that's going to make people have power over me, or anything that somebody could blackmail me with, you know what I mean? And I realized over the years, just sharing those stories, that the guy that, like, if Dave here or you, Shawn, or anybody is always like, man, I got everything figured out, got my shit together, just keep printing money and living the lavish life and never make a mistake, you become unrelatable.
Right.
You're like, man, Dave's a successful dude, a great guy, but on the flip side, I can never be him, because that guy doesn't make mistakes. And most people in this world are fuck ups. We all fuck up, right?
Yep.
And so I'm like, man, I get to be relatable, because I'll talk about the shit that I've messed up. I'll talk about the lessons I've learned, or how things are hard. I made a post probably 2 months ago on Facebook that got like 20,000. It was my first ever viral post, and I've been doing this for a long time, and I get a pretty steady amount of engagement, but I've never had something just go viral and 10 million people see it, And it was about me talking about some hard shit that I was going through. Hey, man, I like to sit here and tell you things are rainbows and sunshine, but I've been hit by the force of average with this year alone. I got an unexpected $1 million tax bill. They levied my account. I've had some employees that I've had that I really like that I've had to let go because they changed. And I've had some people that didn't fit my standards that I've had to remove from my life. And it seems like it's been one battle after the next. And people were so appreciative, like fucking finally somebody of your stature admits that shit's not perfect right now, dude. We appreciate you. And that actually, that vulnerable moment actually drew people closer to me because they're like, this guy's relatable. He's like me. He may be a couple steps ahead of me or whatever in the game, or maybe a couple steps behind me, but he's relatable. Because most people, they want you to think they got everything figured out. And newsflash, people, nobody has everything figured out. Wherever you're at right now in life, you know just as much about life as anybody who's ever lived before. We're all just spinning on this rock going, I don't know, this seems legit, let's try it. And some of us, we try enough shit, like myself, and you guys, we try enough shit to where some things work out. We're like, okay, let's keep repeating that because it works. The problem with most people is they don't try enough shit, so they never figure out what works, so they don't know what to repeat.
Clues, patterns, and choices. But I do have a serious question to ask Shawn, if it's okay. Which is funny because, I made a lot of money when I was young. Nobody ever asked me for financial advice till I lost everything. Then everybody wanted to know financial advice from me. And very few people.
You weren't relatable when you were making it. You were relatable when you lost.
People wouldn't even come to my house because they felt like my friends. That's how unrelatable it was when I made a lot of money. Is like, no, I'm embarrassed. Or they wouldn't invite me to their house and tell me, no, I'm embarrassed because I know how you live. Yeah. It was crazy.
People live, especially entrepreneurs, we live in like blame, shame, and guilt a lot of times. And it's not because we're truly feeling shameful or guilty. It's because we think we're the only persons on the planet that are experiencing life that way, right? And I think that that's the hardest thing is like we go through trying to be a leader and trying to step up as a boss and hire people, fire people, lead people, serve people. And like we make all these mistakes, and because nobody else is talking about it, that's where the shame creeps in. That's where the guilt. If
you go to thesaurus.com and you Google the word and you type in the word perfect, the words leader and boss aren't synonyms with that.
Absolutely not. Never.
They're not going to show up in that search. You know what I mean? So people thinking they have to. First of all, in history, there's been one person that's perfect. That's Jesus Christ. They hung him on a cross. They killed him. They were so mad at that dude that they killed him. Right. And so, that's probably not a path anybody wants to go down. You know what I'm saying?
Well, Gandhi was murdered. Like I always tell people, that dude was super kind. Gandhi, and somebody hated him enough to kill him.
Right.
So you being relatable, the leader means that your experience leads other. My very first podcast episode of Rewire was just lead on the level that you're on. If you've made $10,000 in a month, teach people how to do it. Don't teach people how to make $100,000 a month because you have no idea how to lead on that level. Right. And the thing is, a lot of these, folks that are leaders, they come into their office, whether they're an entrepreneur running a business or whether they're, somebody that's famous on the internet, and they think that's what's going to make them relatable is if they pretend that everything's perfect, but nobody's perfect. So that's the most unrelatable material you'll ever get.
Absolutely.
Next topic I want to dive into, one of the reasons why I love going around the world doing business with Dave is we're not the same person, right? Mm-hmm. Dave has stories for all kinds of things, life stories.
He's better looking.
Inappropriate stories. Yeah, he dresses kind of goofy as I try to balance that out. But really, one of the things that's interesting is like Dave has a vast network. And I admire that. And I love that about Dave. He has connections, Rolodex is deep. I personally adopt a philosophy of fewer better things with fewer better people. Because one of the things that we have run into is, and I'm learning this with Dave as well, is that sometimes if you have a group like Apex, we would bring people into our community and that person wouldn't be who they held themselves out to us to be. And then the community finds this out and they're mad at us. They're like, remember that time you brought the scam artist into the community? And it happened a couple of times. Yeah. You've also been open about this happening with you and your community, and not asking necessarily to enter into a drama or name dropping. I want to talk more about the learning lesson. Because it's easy for someone like you then to be like, look, that's it, Apex, Ryan Stewman, no one else. I don't trust anybody. How do we stay trusting? And how do we sort of gauge that? Because for me, when that happens to me, I get very closed off. Like, screw everybody. No one can be trusted. Only my 3 friends here, and that's it. But then at the same time, I realize that's not serving the community or the good, genuine people who are getting closed out just because of a few bad apples.
Even a full of shit person can say some good stuff and motivate your people. That's,
Right.
you know what I mean? I've had probably 3 or 4 people over the years that I brought into Apex to speak, and then they raised money or they sold a product, and then, and this is the crazy thing, guys. I thought, okay, all my people are investing in this. I better throw money in it too, so that if somebody's a victim, we're all a victim, right?
Ah.
And then when those 3 or 4 people over a 14-year career have done that, here's what I notice. The responsible person in the equation always takes the blame. So I've had a guy come in and he raised millions of dollars from our people, fucked them all, didn't pay any of them, and he stole $1 million from me too. I probably invested more in that deal because I believed in it too, which is why I brought him in, than anybody else. Everybody was mad at me, and they still liking this motherfucker's post, and he's the one that stole from them. Like, they're calling me, you motherfucker, you fucking part of this deal, and they're still liking his post. And I'm like, how the fuck? Because they knew he would never pay them back, and they knew that, and he had no guilt for what he did, but they knew that I, as a responsible person, would feel bad about it, so they took their shit out on me. And yes, it sucks to be me in that situation, but at the same time, it's like, well, at least they think I'm the responsible one of this, so at least I can bear the brunt. I'm like, dude, I got fucked too. I'm on your team. Quit liking his posts. What's wrong with you? You know what I mean? And I've had to deal with that a few times over the last 5 years, really. And the truth is, like, I'll give you an example. I had a guy that my wife terminated from our business about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And there was maybe 5 or 10 clients where this guy overpromised. He was a sales guy. Guy overpromised some shit, underdelivered. Then they come to me now that he's not here, and they're a little upset with me. And I was like, first of all, I fired him because I found out he was doing this shit.
Right.
Second of all, have you told him that you're unhappy with him, or did you just decide to come to me because you think maybe I'll financially make it right with you, or I'll actually deliver on his words? But while you're mad at me, and I didn't do these things, yes, it's my company, I take the responsibility for it, and I'm gonna make it right. But at the same time, have you told him he's a piece of shit, or are you only just coming to me? And they're
what's
like,
worse is they probably are even hiring that guy.
Oh, yeah,
Like, I have one of my sales, one of my young sales guy, overseller, back end seller, liar, manipulator, and cheater. Went ahead, right? People then got pissed at me because he oversold him and then hired him.
Yeah. Like you've ever hired anybody in a company been like, this is what I want you to do. I want you to lie to the clients and fuck them out of their money.
Yeah.
Like that's not at any job interview.
No,
Maybe with
never.
Jordan Belfort back in the day, but there's like, you know what I'm saying? Other than that, there's no job interview that goes down that way. Right. And then you'd think, logical thinker would be like, oh, Stewman saw that, or Meltzer saw that, and he let that guy go. Good move on his end. No, that's that's not the case. And,
but in the realm of blame, shame, and justification, when I lost everything, the thing that hurt the most, and people say, what, people not coming to your back or not being there for you, that didn't hurt me at all, because nobody else was accountable to me that you should come and help me. Right. But the one that really bothered me the most is people would beg me to come into my deals. I didn't need their money. Yeah. But I was making money, and they're like, please. And so I give them a $10,000 or $20,000 symbolic investment into a multi-million-dollar deal. Then I went bankrupt and lost everything. They also lost millions of dollars in other shit. Their homes, right? 2008. And the one that, like, still today, I'm trying to forgive the unforgivable, are like the elementary, junior high, high school buddy that begged me to put 10 grand in, lost 5 million in their business, in their home, and then told my family and friends, the reason I'm bankrupt is your motherfucking son, your asshole brother, that kid we went to high school with, and I'm the only one that knew you put 10 grand in my deal.
You lost $1 million in your house.
Exactly. You know? But I was because of a public figure and because of who I was an obvious scapegoat to blame me. And that one still to this day, I try to forgive myself for doing dumb shit. Yep. I didn't intentionally lose my own money, I'll tell you that. Right. I definitely didn't want to lose their money. Right. But that blame can get really discouraging and it's one of the things like Shawn says, and I'll tell you when he says, well, Dave has this huge network, but I go deep. No, trust me, I have more deep relationships than Shawn.
Yeah.
I have also a lot more associates and friends, et cetera, that don't really show up. And so I think it's a matter of, like you said, there's different teams. What position on the team am I playing? And I want as many deep relationships as I can have. And I prioritize Shawn and Lacey. They're like two of my best friends. So our relationship's much more deep than even you and I, Ryan, who I consider a friend. But we've done stuff together and we've lost money together, and we don't blame the guys that took our money either, do we?
Yeah. I kind of blame them.
Okay. I forgive them.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up, I would love to get a perspective too. As we've talked a lot about sort of backwards facing. Let's look forward a little bit. The game, entrepreneurship, marketing, sales, one funnel, school communities, all of this, right? Like it's all changing. It's dynamic. We're seeing the youngsters with the rented private jet, the rented Ferraris, Lamborghinis,
Dry lease.
Social media, positioning, personal brand. What do you think is the future for, like, if you were starting this, if you were just coming onto the scene and you were building Apex from right now, what do you see as sort of the future? Where is this all going?
Well, I don't know who just died behind us here, but whatever fell on them. But I have, and I don't say this with an ego for those watching, but I've started a lot of these trends on the internet. I found the celebrities and had them on stages before that was a bigger deal. I had the exotic cars and the rented jets. I've never owned a jet, but I've chartered a bunch of them in 2016, 2017, and started the black tee. And I remember Cardone and those guys were like, you're never going to be able to just wear a black t-shirt and have tattoos and shit. Now I'm like, fucking feel like Eminem. Like there's a million Slim Shadys just like me out there. And so I'm like, I started a lot of this shit and it's my fault. But now I don't stand out. I stood out cussing and wearing a black t-shirt and being like, fuck a suit and wearing the prison tattoos and shit. Now I'm scrolling through Instagram. I was like, there's me. So I started
Crazy to be a dork.
It's like I started thinking, like, what's going to make me stand out? Do I need to go put a suit on now that nobody wears one anymore, or whatever the case? Like, I gotta start the next trend or be ahead of it. And I can tell you this, if everybody can do something, nobody wants it. So the minute that Lamborghinis became, you could get a 10-year note or you could get them on Toro, then you see everybody on Instagram with a Lamborghini, and immediately instead of going, that guy's successful, now the perception is that guy's a douchebag, right? So I tried one thing, which is just who I am, period, anyway. But I own a ranch, 200 head of cattle, 400 acres. We control 800 acres around it through leases and stuff, but I own 400 of them. And I thought, man, I'll be the guy on the tractor because that's who I really am anyway. And the problem with that was people think farmers are poor. They don't know that we just made $55,000 from cows the other day, and we just took about 10 cows to market, made $55,000 from them. They don't think that, you see cows on the side of the road and a fence. You don't realize somebody has to be a millionaire to own that land. They have to be a millionaire to buy that cattle. They have to be a millionaire to actually take care, vaccinate, feed, and bale hay and have equipment and all this stuff. They see a tractor on the side of the road. It's not as appealing as a Lamborghini. So I'm like, okay, that failed. Right? Like I still own the farm because that's not why I bought it. But I'm like, okay, so that wasn't the cool thing that got people's attention. And then I just realized, like, you know what? All these people are faking a personality or faking success. I'm just going to be real. So I did an ad about 2 months ago, most successful ad this year. I'm sitting next to a urinal acting like I'm peeing. And for those of you that thought that I was peeing, I'm really not. And I walked and I said, hey, I'll wash my hands in a minute because I know that would piss people off, right? He didn't wash his hands, right? But it's not like I told my cameraman, hey, I'm going to go grab my piece and you film me. That's like I had my pants up. Y'all didn't anyway. So, and at the end of the video, it shows me like washing my hands, even though I wasn't peeing in the first place. But I got a lot of attraction and a lot of leads from that because they're like, hey, while everybody else has a Lamborghini, your ass is in the bathroom, bro. That's fucking crazy. You know what I mean? We got an ad going right now where it's me wearing a pineapple shirt. And I'm like, I'm looking for friends with benefits. And I'm talking about how people that are my friends can benefit from my group. So I'm like, you know what I have that other people don't have is a personality and humor. And I don't have, and if I'm scrolling the news feed and everybody's in a jet, everybody's in a Rolls Royce, everybody's in a Lamborghini, and then there's some goofball with his wife asking for friends with benefits wearing a pineapple shirt, that's a scroll stopper.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I think the other thing, I know this for a fact, is I used to have these well-produced 4K videos with captions and pictures and stuff, and man, they get 2,000-3,000 views on Instagram because subconsciously our clients are getting smarter. So they're going, that dude spent all that money on that video for a reason. He's trying to sell me something at some point, right? And so instead, I went back to just recording Instagram reels from my phone directly in my car or talking. And people see that and they go, that's something I can do. And it worked for him and he got 200,000 views on it. I mean, it's the difference literally between 200,000 views and 2,000 views, going back to the basics, because people got on social media not to be advertised to by some douchebag in a Lambo. They didn't get on there for somebody to sell them a course or a mastermind. They got on there to connect with their friends, to meet new people, to socially network and go and meet new people that they can follow that'll inspire them. And we went way too far left on that shit. And everybody's got to have, I'm the biggest dick in the game. I got the biggest car, the biggest fleet. I got this car, that car, that car, that car. And I did that a long time ago. But once everybody starts doing something, it's kind of like our economy. You look at it and you go, well, everybody's doing that. How about I just go back to the basics and now I stand out again?
Love it. What was your takeaway?
Oh, it's being at your essence. I mean, when you are around people like Ryan and the other people that I'm around, the ones that I like, they understand that because it is now this huge community and we have access to it, it's not like in 2016 or even 2013 when I was around people trying to be what they want people to think they are, that it's the people that actually are.
Yeah.
So even the tractor side of it, it's who he is. And although it may not resonate with as many people, and some people may not get that only wealthy people own tractors, which is probably true. More importantly, I started this by saying I'm a content capture, right? I can pay people to create my content, and I always have, even in traditional sense. I pay people to do the magazine article for Warren Moon and Troy Aikman and Steve Young, but I captured the essence, and I think more people that try to capture their essence and are content capturers are going to succeed. And that's what Ryan is. He captures his essence. This is who I am. This is not what I want you to think I am. And those are the people that are going to win in the long run.
One of the things
I want to say something here just to the audience, is that when anybody can hack a funnel, hack a VSL, hack a Lamborghini, hack a jet, you know, what are those things that I told Russell Brunson one time, he tried to hack one of my funnels, and I was like, I got this shit you can't hack, bro.
Nice.
Like, I got a personality and I have a way of doing life that you can't hack that. They're not buying on my fucking website. They're buying me. And it wasn't an angry exchange between him, but he's like, hey, we tried to do your shit and it didn't work. And I was like, I got that shit you can't hack. What can you hack? You can't hack the fact that I've got a 10-year marriage with my wife and she's happy and I'm happy. You can't hack that I got 4 well-disciplined, well-minded, amazing kids. You can't hack that I've got a real estate portfolio that isn't a bunch of apartments and stuff like that. And it's a ranch and a house and an office. You can't hack an office. You can't hack. You need to be, if you really want to stand out, you need to figure out what it is about you that they can't hack. Anybody can go rent a Lambo. Anybody can go charter a jet. It just takes money. You can't fake a good marriage. You can't fake being a good parent. You can't fake being a good friend. You can't fake having a real business with real employees that's making a real impact on the market, whether it's roofing or a mastermind or whatever that thing is. Start thinking about those qualities that you have that motherfuckers can't take from you because you put the time and effort into them, and that's what's going to make you stand out in the future.
Well, if these mics weren't expensive, I'd just throw it right on the floor. All right, everybody. Ryan Stewman, I hope that you will take this information and act upon it. Reach out to Ryan, connect with him. Amazing stuff that he's putting out on social media. Accessible guy. One of the things that I love about doing this podcast is it allows us to come in contact with people like him. And when I sit here, I am edified, hopefully just as much as you are. Thank you to David. Thank you to Lacey. And especially thank you, Ryan. Make sure you tune in next week. We'll be back again with a brand new episode of this amazing podcast.